Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 20 of Weekend Warriors, the review series for GranTurismo's sports coupe, sports car, luxury sports car, etc. selection. Basically sports cars of any and every kind. And this particular episode features, I would say, a brilliant sports coupe. A car which manages to be simultaneously a very good luxury sports coupe with the decent size, spec and feel of quality, but while simultaneously being a genuine high-performance sports car that can compete with vehicles which can sometimes, in some cases, be better than this car in things such as its weight or power even. The car is the BMW M3. A hugely popular car, very respected in all of its forms, and for good reason. The M3 in every variation has been a brilliant sports coupe, and this particular version, which is the E92 shape M3, is no different. It's a brilliant car. Now, we will also be featuring the E46 shape M3 along with the CSL version in future episodes, but for now we have the newer model. This is a premium car, of course, and it's reasonably expensive at 92 grand, but at the same time that's not too surprising given that most of the German performance cars are more expensive. Now, as far as what you get from this car, it does have, unfortunately, more potential than that which it's actually allowed to achieve on GranTurismo 6, as many of the other BMWs also suffer from. Unfortunately, the other M3s in particular also deserve more power and torque than what they have to work with. But unfortunately we can't change that for the moment, and the 4-litre naturally aspirated engine in this car puts out 615 horsepower when fully tuned. Now that's not bad, but the fact that it's naturally aspirated does of course mean that it should be putting out more than that with a supercharger or a turbo. Far more power than that, in fact, at least 7, 8 or even 900 horsepower if it were allowed to have said turbos or superchargers. The M4, for instance, is one of the few cars of its type that is allowed to have that kind of power. It's just a shame that this one isn't also. Now, as well as 615 horsepower, you're also looking at 389 foot-pounds of torque, which actually isn't that great if you think about it. For a 4-litre engine, that's not as much torque as you'd probably assume. And again, that's due to it being naturally aspirated. If it were allowed to be turbo or supercharged, it would help a lot in that regard. That being said, don't worry about that. It doesn't affect the way the car performs. It's still an excellent performance machine. Now, one of the things about this car, which is perhaps a little disappointing initially, but at the same time not too surprising, is the weight. Like some other, in particular German, sports vehicles, it is a little heavy. It weighs 1,325 kilos even with the full weight loss package. That being said, this does not feel like a 1,325 kilo car. It handles itself unbelievably well. This is a superb track car. Even without the flat floor, the M3 can easily outpace most of its rivals around corners, and around the majority, in fact, of technical tracks. The horsepower per tonne does suffer a little due to the weight at 464, but in a car like this, and in some others as well, it almost doesn't matter, because some cars just go beyond the numbers. The numbers may not be that impressive, but what they do with what they're given just more than makes up for it. And with the M3, that is definitely the case. Now, overall, I would far more recommend this car as a track car than a straight-line machine. It's not really that great of a straight-line machine. Top-end performance is around the 240-250 region, and the acceleration is pretty good, but just not good enough to be genuinely competitive against very many other vehicles of its type. There are cars that it can beat, but it just kind of falls into a bit of a no-man's land for straight-line speed. It's not quick enough to take on stuff like the M5 or the M4, but it's quick enough to beat stuff like the Z4 or the Z3. So kind of inconsequential either way as far as straight line speed, top speed in particular. As a track car though, it really does redeem itself, because this M3 is, as I said earlier, incredible in that regard. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the E92. My personal favourite M3 is the original E30, especially in Sport Evo form. But I have to admit, this really is a mind-blowingly good car around corners. It's fun, it's fast, it's competitive, and it just gets the job done. This thing is about as close, I would say, to vehicles like the Nissan GT-R in terms of how good it is around corners for a similar kind of price. The M3 of the E92 generation, at least, is a car which really does deserve more use from more people, and I think one of the reasons why it doesn't is due to the fact that the M4 is just a far superior performance machine, thanks to the fact that it's allowed to be. And unfortunately, this car just isn't allowed to accomplish that. However, don't be put off by the numbers. This car is so good, in fact, that I can't really explain just how good the handling is. It has an intangible quality that certain cars have, such as the Audi TTS Quattro, I would say, as well as some others also, that has a personality to it. It's not just a good handling car, as the cliche goes. It has an attitude, it has character, feeling, personality behind it. It's fun, as well as being devastatingly effective. So if you haven't bought this particular M3, I would definitely recommend it over any of the other M3s, including the GT-R Street version. And to be honest, I consider it to be better than the M4 as a track car. Obviously in a straight line it doesn't stand a chance against it, but as a track car, it's brilliant. But that's it overall for this particular review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.